La familia siempre primero. Remember that.
Family is one of the most important elements when it comes to the game the Tejadas are in. It gives you purpose, something to fight for, but they can also act as a weakness, and that can be targeted and manipulated, especially in this game. And we've seen it happen through various storylines and plots in Power. But we've all heard the saying, blood doesn't necessarily make you family, loyalty does. And it's a lesson which Monet once taught Diana.
There's a difference between family and blood, D. Not everyone can be trusted. Or did you think about why he got up so early and your dad ain't tell us?
So as we transition into Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3, the dynamics have completely shifted within the Tejada household, and the shift in power and control was beginning to change even before Lorenzo was released from prison. But Lorenzo being released was a catalyst for further events that played out, which included family secrets being spilled at the dinner table, to Lorenzo killing Zeke. So in this video, we're going to be dissecting the storyline from Season 1, the fallout from Season 2, which leads to why another Tejada death could further change the dynamics in the family, as well as ending with some thoughts and theories for Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3. Season 1 of Ghost picked up 72 hours after the events of Power, and so we were witnessing what Tariq was going through in real time. But we were also introduced to this family in Queens, with Monet Tejada, Kane, Drew, and Diana, who were all embedded into their street life. And in contrast to someone like Tariq St. Patrick, Monet and Lorenzo were open and honest with their kids. But there were some dark hidden secrets which would eventually end up with the death of one of them. But we were introduced to Monet at the head of the dinner table because she was the woman in charge. But fast forward to Season 2, we saw how she had to relinquish this power to Lorenzo. But in Season 1, we saw how she was nurturing and teaching Diana, which goes back to the video I played earlier, which is also a foreshadow to who Diana is about to become, which is something I'm going to come back to later on. We also started to see this first power struggle between Monet and Lorenzo, where Lorenzo wanted Drew to visit Lil Guap, but where Monet thought it would be best for Kane. But as we all saw, both parents were right and wrong, and maybe the right decision was to send both, just like they played good cop and bad cop earlier in Season 1. But Drew was also warned by Monet when she saw this drawing in his bag, because Drew was playing with fire when a relationship sparked between him and Ev, something that continued to have consequences in Season 2, and will no doubt have even further in Season 3. So having said that, Monet was someone who wanted to shield and protect her kids, especially Diana.
You were good kids. Good to me, good to Kane, good to each other. And it's easy for you to get hurt out there. And I don't want you hurt.
So very much like Tasha, who wanted to protect Tariq but asked her son to get rid of Tamika as well as Epiphany, Monet was treading the fine line of wanting to protect her kids, but also making them live a life which ultimately ended in death or jail. And we saw how she had to put her foot down with Drew and Diana, because there had to be consequences to actions, and they had to learn how to take orders, because as much as they were Monet's kids, they were also treated as soldiers, especially Kane. Monet had this level of control over Kane at the beginning, but this control began to diminish ever since she brought Tariq in. And so one of the pivotal moments in Season 1 came when Lorenzo had Kane be in prison, because it showed this level of authority, but ultimately it pushed Kane too far, and to the point where he decided to go against the family in more ways than one, which only made things worse. And so we start to see this divide from the Tejadas even before Lorenzo was released, because Kane decided he was out for himself, which is why he kept Lil Guap alive. But things changed the moment Drew was shot.
This is all your fault!
This was Rico's fault.
Bullshit, Kane! Rico did this because you left.
Run, Kane. Run before I put you down myself.
And this is the moment we knew the Tejadas would never be the same again, especially Drew. And so Season 1 finished with Kane out and Tariq in. So as we entered Season 2, I mentioned how Drew being shot would mean the Tejadas would never be the same ever again. And we began to see that instantly. Monet wanted out of the game. And throughout the first half of the season, we as the audience, as well as Diana and Drew, could see Monet was distracted, and Mecca was the man to blame. But this was the real game-changing moment. Diana, who was becoming very street-savvy, who was working behind the scenes to get Lorenzo released, she stole from the family, and she managed to find a way to manipulate a bad situation to her benefit with Tariq. She used the powdered sugar move to help her get a meeting with Davis McLean and Cooper Sachs. And so Lorenzo didn't just come home, he took the seat at the head of the Tejada organization. Instantly, Lorenzo began making moves and changing things by putting Kane back in his place, making Drew his right-hand man and sending Diana to college, but away from Tariq St. Patrick. But most importantly, Monet was now on the sidelines, which did initially put her further into Mecca's direction. Now, just to pause on this power struggle between Monet and Lorenzo, I do think it's important for us to establish the relationship between Lorenzo and Drew. In contrast to someone like Tariq St. Patrick, who has a bit more freedom, Drew doesn't. He was born into this family where his destiny lies with taking over the Tejada operation, and instantly when Lorenzo was released, he saw the way Drew looked at Ev, and he was quickly in position to get in between. We saw him having these conversations with Drew that he never had with Kane or Diana, which does go back to season 1 with how he wanted Drew to take over the family business, which is going to be key when we come to discussing Lorenzo killing Zeke, because that will be the catalyst which in my opinion causes a further death in the Tejadas. So coming back to this power struggle between Monet and Lorenzo, Monet realized her family was sitting around this dinner table. She had her husband and her kids who were all under one roof, and her life with Mecca was just a fantasy, very similar to Angela in Ghost, but breakdown in her relationship with Diana was costly in more ways than one.
I mean, Zeke's dead.
What the fuck is she talking about, Mo?
No, that wasn't my dad. That wasn't my dad. Right, Auntie?
Jesus Christ, Zeke, what the fuck? That ain't your fucking auntie. That's your mother.
Mo, what the fuck is she talking about?
This really did break the family, and we saw a quick turn in emotions within the Tejada household, one which ultimately led to more secrets being revealed about Mecca being a snitch, and where Monet had a decision to make. It was either going to be Lorenzo or Mecca, but with Mecca being the goat of global snitching, he was always going to bite the dust. But where Monet wanted to be the one to kill Mecca, Lorenzo felt it was his duty to protect his family, and although Lorenzo did let Monet deal with the situation, he didn't, and we all saw him make a very impulsive decision in going after who he thought was Mecca for killing Zeke.
Mrs. Tejada, I'm sorry to inform you that your son, Ezekiel Cross, is dead.
So as we move into season 3, the death of Zeke is once again gonna change the dynamics, because Monet is gonna stop at nothing to find out who is the man behind Zeke's death, and that was Lorenzo. And a theory I want to run by is who I think will play a key role in finding out the truth, and that's Diana. Diana is someone who showed she's shrewd and savvy, and also has a way of finding out secrets, which is why I consider Diana to be one of the most dangerous Tejada, in a different way to Kane and Drew. But whoever finds out the truth first, whether it be Diana, Drew, Monet, or whoever else, no doubt there's going to be consequences to Lorenzo's actions. And just like how we saw an empty chair at the dinner table in season 2, I think at the end of season 3 there's going to be another, and it may just be Lorenzo. Now, why this will change everything is because this leaves a void at the head of the table, which you would naturally think would be Monet, but we all know she wants out of the game. So will it be Monet, Drew, Kane, maybe even Diana? But it also goes back to how Lorenzo's relationship with Drew was so important. But what this will definitely do is shake up the family dynamics like we've never seen before. Because where we saw a power struggle between Monet and Lorenzo, we could be in for a power struggle between Drew and Kane. And there's also Diana who wants to hustle at the same time. Now, someone else who could further complicate things is Evelyn, and she's after the truth behind Uncle Frank's death. And I think she could very well end up working with law enforcement. And she did warn Monet she would hate for her kids to pay for their father's sins, just like hers. But I could definitely see her being a snitch. But that's a breakdown of a backstory with the Tejadas, and also why a death within the Tejadas could change everything, as well as some theories for season 3. So drop all your thoughts down below, and of course if you are new to the channel and you haven't done so already, then remember to smash the subscribe button if you want to see everything Power Book 2 Ghost and Power Universe related. But as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.